Hello? Speaking. Suspicious credit card activity. How much? 8 terabytes. That's a pretty good deal. Gotta have the 64 gigs of RAM. Oh, 8 terabytes. Yeah, why not? Yeah, no. That was me. Excuse me? Crazy? I'm not crazy. Have we all recovered from our Apple Keynote hangover yet? Well, get some water, because today we're going to break down the new MacBook Pros with the M1 Pro and the M1 Max chip, along with what you should be looking out for before you go out and purchase one, along with what I went for and why. And I think the configuration that I went for is going to surprise a lot of you compared to what other people have bought so far. For many of us with older MacBooks, this has been the upgrade we've been waiting for. What you see here is my 2018 MacBook Pro. I got this late 2018 and it was the most expensive Mac I ever owned, and I have to be honest, it was the worst Mac I ever owned. The butterfly keyboard was the least of its issues. That said, it did fail on me this year and I did send it in for repair. And a side note, a real horror story of that was I got the keyboard back, but they didn't connect the display properly, and then the screen went off and I had to send it in yet again. And ultimately I was like 2.5 weeks without a laptop, and that was, not great. The biggest surprise when Apple announced the new MacBook Pros was how it didn't really make a big deal out of the display, which I actually think is the biggest game-changing feature of the new MacBook Pros. Now, we've had many LED and OLED displays before in PC laptops. However, what makes the MacBooks different is that they're typically a lot more color accurate. They always go for about 100% P3 color gamut, which is the case here. And if it's 100% P3, it's typically 100% sRGB. However, they can also do HDR content, which is very impressive in itself. Another feature that I think professionals are going to love is, like the Pro Display XDR, with the new MacBooks you can actually select different reference modes, and Apple has calibrated these out of the box. I'm also excited that with the new displays on the MacBook Pros you can actually change the frame rate on it to match the content that you're watching or you're working with. Now, for most people that's a very marginal differences. Most people edit with a 60Hz monitor. But for those, who will watch their content eventually on a projector that goes at 24 frames a second, it's actually really nice to see your content displayed in its truest form, because the motion is different. As for the notch on the screen, yes, it absolutely sucks, particularly because there's no Face ID. However, Apple needs a reason for you to upgrade next year or even 2 years' time. So do expect Face ID to come to the MacBooks, we just don't know when. They do design the chassis of the computer to last a few years. This design went for 5 years, the previous design went for 4 years. Face ID will come, we just don't know when. I actually have been working with a notch of my own for a while because I have a webcam on my monitor, and I've had that since late 2019. And I have to be honest, you do just eventually get used to having a notch on your screen. What I really want to focus this video on is for the enthusiasts out there, making sure you buy the right MacBook Pro and that you read the fine print. In fact, what I found absolutely interesting from all the new MacBook Pro coverage and from all the opinions people have been posting, absolutely no one pointed out that both the M1 Pro and the M1 Max have the same CPU performance. Now, yes, of course, they do both have 10 cores, but performance-wise, they're exactly the same when it comes to the processor. Even Apple pointed that out on their graph, and no one has brought it up. When you upgrade to the M1 Max, you're purely getting a graphics boost. Now, yes, you do get double the bandwidth of memory. However, unless you're getting that 64GB of RAM upgrade, you're probably not going to feel that. It's going to be marginal, if any. Get a bandwidth, it's how many lanes there are on a road. It's not necessarily how far the road goes. The main thing is, I don't think in 3 years' time, if you plan to sell the MacBook, it's going to do anything to boost the sale value, because whoever's going to be buying that used MacBook does, they're probably not someone who wants the maximum graphics performance. If they're that type of professional, they're going to buy new and they're going to buy it today. Now, be really careful when you're deciding between the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. Don't be buying thinking that it's going to be a better investment. Buy what you need now. It's also important to remember, based on Apple's track record with their own processors, is that each generation is significantly faster than the previous one. So a maxed out M1 Mac processor could be completely ran circles around by the new processor in 2 years' time. So that's not going to help the resale value or the market value of your MacBook when you consider selling it. So again, do only buy what you need. This is a very completely different ball game to when there were Intel MacBooks, and a 2012 Retina quad-core MacBook Pro would have the same performance as a 2017 MacBook Pro quad-core. Even though that was a completely new design and a new architecture, the performance was kind of similar. But as we've seen from how Apple iterates on their A chips and their M chips, they get really fast with each update. One thing that I've heard from many people this year was that with the M1 chip, having 16GB of RAM was so fast it was like running 32GB of RAM on a traditional PC or Mac system. However, I am very sorry to say that I, out of all people, have actually ran out of RAM on my M1 Mac Mini. On 3 different occasions. I had both Photoshop and Final Cut Pro open. I was not doing anything in Final Cut Pro, I was mostly in Photoshop, big documents, and I've actually had Force Quit pop up on me saying the Mac had ran out of memory and I needed to force quit one of these applications to continue using the system. Now, in fairness, when I rebooted, I was able to reopen the documents and continue working, and I didn't run into those memory issues, so maybe it's because I keep my Mac Mini on all the time, which I know is not great for your system. But the reality is I did have that Force Quit window pop up on me saying the Mac had ran out of memory. So because of that, I will be going for the 32GB upgrade on the new M1, MacBook Pros. Another aspect that you will need to consider that no one's pointed out is the differences between the 14-inch screen and the 16-inch screen. And that's particularly that the 16-inch MacBook Pro is quite heavy at 4.7 pounds. Now look, if you're an office worker and you're going from the house to a car or a bicycle into the office, this won't affect you. But if you're a road warrior or someone who works out and about on location in different places, that is something to consider. The 16-inch, M1 Pro MacBook Pro comes in at 4.7 pounds. That is heavier than the previous Intel 16-inch at 4.5 pounds. And it's much heavier than the older 15-inch one here at 4 pounds. Even if you're upgrading from a Retina 2012 to 2015 model, I know a lot of you guys held out who've had that computer, this is your time to upgrade. Those were only 4.5 pounds, this new one's 4.7 pounds. I already find the 15-inch MacBook Pro at 4 pounds quite heavy, so I'm going to go for the 14.2-inch MacBook Pro. What I've actually done here is compared the size of the 14.2-inch screen against the 15.4-inch screen. And as you can see, the screen isn't that much smaller, particularly because we got so much more vertical resolution on the new 14-inch model. So I'm really happy with the 14.2-inch screen size. That said, if you are a road warrior, the 4 hours of extra battery life you get on this 16-inch MacBook Pro are absolutely fantastic and is well worth the upgrade price alone. Actually, the upgrade price isn't that much. It's about €200. I've checked different currencies. It's about £150 to €200. So now that I've shared my thought process on the different types of upgrades you can make to the new MacBook Pros, I'm going to tell you the configuration I went with if you haven't already discerned it. I went for the 14.2-inch MacBook Pro with the regular M1 Pro 10-core 16 graphic core CPU. I did not go for the M1 Max upgrade. I did, however, upgrade the RAM to 32GB given my issues with the Mac Mini, and I've also went for 1TB of SSD storage. Now I will say upgrading to the M1 Max was very tempting because I've already upgraded the RAM, so it was only €200 extra. However, ultimately what I decided to spend my money on was AppleCare Plus for €269, and I highly recommend anyone buying a new MacBook Pro to buy AppleCare Plus to give you 3 years warranty. This is a first generation, new build MacBook Pro, new Apple Silicon. There might be issues, and I think that AppleCare Plus will come in clutch. With the M1 MacBook Pros, because it's system on a chip, if anything goes down on the chip, whether it's the storage, the RAM, the processor, the entire board has to be changed, and that will be very expensive. Another thing that really helped me figure out what MacBook Pro to buy was honestly getting the chance to use the M1 Mac Mini, which was fantastic. This helped me a lot, and that's because I've been very happy with the regular M1 chip on the Mac Mini. So I'm already getting a faster chip with the M1 Pro. I'm getting double the graphics performance from the Mac Mini, even though I never had graphic performance issues to begin with the Mac Mini. Based on what the work I've done for the past few months, which is consistent with what I normally do, I didn't run into any graphic issues, and I'm already getting double the graphics performance. I don't need the extra graphics performance from the Max chip. I mean, if the M1's fine, the M1 Pro is going to be more than enough. As for storage, I was miserable with 512 gigs on this, so I'm hoping 1 terabyte is the sweet spot. So that is why I purchased the M1 Pro MacBook Pro to save some money and I didn't go for the M1 Max chip. I sure hope I made the right decision. I guess we'll find out soon. Drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts about if I made the right decision or not, and what configuration are you going to go for if you purchase a MacBook Pro. But thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to stay tuned for the future MacBook Pro videos, the unboxing, all the coverage. But other than that, if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, and I will all see you soon in another video. I'm back. I took a bit of a break, but I'm back making videos and I will be back to regular posting. Thank you for being patient, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.